Humans of the cardboard, I welcome your sweet cheeks back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, we are doing another deck profile. This is post-dimension forced. Weather painters have finally gotten good support for the first time in years. Even Rainbow Canvas is like okay, but the cards they got now, particularly the Field Spell, the Link Monster is fine, but it's really the Field Spell that actually helps this deck. The deck is not perfect. There's still more that I would like to see. I'll mention that later when I feel like going on a mini rant, but yeah, for now, I'm just stoked that a deck that I love actually got support. I only have one proxy, but it's a double of a card that I already have, so it's okay. All right, let's jump into this thing. Without further ado, Weather Painters. Starting off with the monster lineup, this is going to be fairly standard for what we've seen from the past, sort of, maybe slight changes, but triple Weather Painter Snow, triple Weather Painter Thunder, triple Weather Painter Cloud, and one Weather Painter Aurora. This is a fairly standard lineup now. You're probably going to see this all over the place, but these by far are the best Weather Painters. I think Sun and Rain are dookie. Don't play them. Maybe down the line we could get support that actually makes Sun a little better, but until then, no, and Rain's just ass, so whatever. But Snow is your single best starter in the entire deck. When it's normal summon, it places a canvas into your spell and trap zone. That places, doesn't search, so it cannot be ashed, which is amazing. Thunder can kind of like swap any continuous, so you can send any continuous spell or trap for a canvas pretty much, and it places as well, so again, cannot be ashed. And then Cloud. So Cloud is particularly better now than he ever was before, because he says if any weather card you control is sent to the graveyard, you can target 2 weather spell or traps engraved and place them face up in your spell and trap zone. What this allows us to do is, in conjunction with the new field spell, we'll explain this a little more when we get there, he allows you to make like incredibly efficient Link summons for your Link 3. And also punish your opponent for trying to use side deck cards like Twin Twisters or whatever while he's on the field. You can just punish him, especially because these cards have a ton of text. So for somebody who doesn't really know what Weather Painters do, you can just shit all over people because they just don't want to read your entire card text, and they'll literally just twin you or Harpy's Feather Dust you or whatever while you just have Cloud up, and you just get all the cards back. And then Aurora, she's kind of your main deck boss monster. The deck could use an upgrade on this as far as main deck boss monsters go. It's fine for now. It protects your canvases while she's on the field. And also, she's big, and when she's normal summon, doesn't happen all the time. Theoretically, could if you hard draw her. She does the same thing as like Snow, gets you another canvas. So still a good card, probably a good one of just to tag into if your opponent uses something like a, Harpy's Feather Duster or something like that on your back row to protect it. But yeah, really nice. And then for the rest of the monsters, we're looking at high impact hand traps, except for Ash. Sorry, that's the first one I showed you when I said high impact. Triple Ash, triple Shifter, and triple Gamma. Rounding out this lineup here, we'll throw the driver up there, just to maintain some pretty good symmetry there. So yeah, the idea with this deck is, with most rogue decks, your engine is most likely inherently less powerful than meta engine. So if you are expecting to play decks with better engines, you kind of need to make up for it by playing high impact utility cards that those decks cannot afford to play. Most decks in the meta aren't willing to play Gamma in the main because it can be a brick going first. You have to play the driver brick, so on and so forth. Most decks in the meta just can't even afford to play Shifter because it hurts them more than it hurts their opponent. That makes this card really nice versus a lot of decks. And then Ash Blossom is kind of the catch-all. It's kind of like the just no matter what, it's going to hit. If you just play nothing but high-impact hand traps, you kind of risk the problem of like just not even having any sort of consistency with hand traps being good in certain matchups, and you could just end up being screwed because you don't play any hand traps that like kind of cover everything. So that's the one meet in the middle I have here is the Ash, but still feel good about it. So 9 hand traps there with the driver. That's it for the monsters. 20 in the main. Feeling good there. Moving into the spells. Looking at the new spell card. Triple Weather Forecast paired up with triple Snowy Canvas. And of course 1 copy of Rainy Canvas for the weather canvas. Well, I guess they're not all canvases, not forecasts, but for your weather spells and spells at least. So Rainy bounces back row. It's a nice utility card, and especially post side, I would recommend siding something like Anti-Spell Fragrance. It's going to beat a lot of what cards already are really good against the deck. which is great. And then, so what happens if your opponent has a bunch of spells in hand, they'll set them, and then you can just use Rainy Canvas, just bounce all their set spells back to their hand. So by the time their turn comes back around, you still have anti-spell. Their cards aren't live because they all got bounced back to hand. They have to reset them, and you just win because they can't play their hand. Snowy Canvas, it's one of the best canvases. It allows you to banish a Weather Painter. If you don't know the mechanic, by the way, this deck is very particular. So all the canvases give effects to the Weather Painters that are in their column or adjacent columns. And all their effects are like quick effects that banish the Weather Painter as cost. So kind of a very particular deck. This one allows you to quick effect banish a Weather Painter to search any the weather card from your deck to your hand. One of the best ones being, and probably just the best one overall, because it just gets you snowy, so it's snowy with more value, is Forecast. This card's insane. It does 3 huge things for the archetype. The first one is on activation, gets you a +1 for any canvas straight from the deck. It just places it in your spell and trap zone. Then while it's on the field, once per turn, you can just gain an additional normal summon for a Weather Painter, helping you extend. So this could like throw Snowy Canvas onto the field. If you have any Weather Painter in hand, banish them to search another Weather Painter, and then this card gives you the normal summon for the new Weather Painter. It's just so easy to keep extending. Really, really solid. And the final effect says if you would link summon a Weather link monster, you can actually send your canvases from the field as well as your monsters as material. That becomes so huge. This deck, one of the biggest problems that made no sense was they had this really powerful link monster, but the deck literally took like 5 turns to summon it because clearly the deck's very slow. You don't put a ton of monsters on the field very quickly. So being able to at least by turn 3 get to your link 3 pretty easily, rather than having to wait all the way until, you know, turn 5 or even turn 7 is so huge. And this is the reason that Cloud is so much better, because you can send canvases as link material while Cloud is on the field. And as long as you don't use Cloud for the link summon, you had enough material otherwise, Cloud would get you 2 of those canvases back immediately. So you essentially could just send any Weather Painter or canvas to grave to pretty much just get the link 3 out while Cloud is on the field. It's just so free, so good. This card's amazing for the deck. It did so much for what they needed, and I love it. But I will scream to the heavens that the one thing the deck still needs is a actual weather interruption, a canvas interruption. It doesn't have to be amazing. If it was just an impermanence-esque effect, target a monster on the field, negate its effects, I would be fine with that because you could do it every turn and it would give the deck a very consistent, just reliable, simple negate the setup. And it's just something. The deck does, like, if you just go snow, you don't get an interruption. You get a lot of value and you get a lot of setup for next turn, but like if somebody just has the ability to hit massive removal on you, they'll just blow you out, and that's like the scary part. Okay, the rest of the spells, just consistency stuff, triple Piri Rice Map and triple Prosperity. I'm sorry, Prosperity here. I know this isn't a very expensive deck until you put Prosperity in it, but here's the thing. Snow is the single best starter in the entire deck. So if you want to see Snow, I think you should be playing Piri Rice Map like I am. I just fear not being able to play it all by not seeing a good starter. But hey, here's the other thing. Piri Rice Map has to be activated at the start of main phase 1. So if you play this, you can't really afford to play Pot of Extravagance with it. So you'd have to pick one or the other. And if you want to play Extravagance over Prosperity, that would be the drawback, is like you kind of have to cut Piri Rice Map at that point because they just conflict pretty awfully, if I do say so myself. So it's hard to say. I mean, I think this is correct. Hopefully we get a Prosperity reprint sooner than later. It feels like we're getting really close to when we finally actually get like a somewhat affordable print of this card. But yeah, I mean, it's just consistency. The one downside of Forecast is that it only gets you a canvas, and Snowy Canvas is only getting you to the rest of your engine if you already have a Weather Painter in hand. So you kind of need to see that, a Weather Painter in hand. So Piri Rice Map and Prosperity just kind of help us dig for a monster if all we have is like the canvas setups around them. All right, because that's like the worst place to be. It's like Magical Musketeers, which ironically they came out in the same set. But like it's like seeing a Musketeer with no muskets or muskets with no Musketeer. It's like it's awful either way. Okay, now we get to the traps. The only 2 canvases I play for the trap cards is 1 Rainbow Canvas, 1 Thundery Canvas. I like this, and with playing triple Cloud and having pretty easy access to him, I don't worry about these too much. It's pretty easy to just get these back from grave with Cloud, so I'm not that overly worried about it. But Rainbow says if your opponent has a monster on the field, you can quick tag out any of your weather painters to summon another one from deck. That's really good if your opponent tries to like blow up your canvases and you can go for Cloud or Aurora to just kind of punish them and just waste advantage. And then Thunder is your monster removal. If any weather monster battles an opponent's monster, you can like you can banish your weather painter and it'll non-targeting, non-destruction bounce their monster back to the hand. It's fine, but it takes the battle phase. So like I still like that it's non-targeting, non-destruction, but the deck, like I said, needs interruption. It needs it so bad. And those just don't do it, but they're still really nice cards regardless. Finishing up our trap lineup here, I showed you the hand traps. This is where we have to play some other power cards where, aside from our engine, we really want to see some high impact, just, utility cards. I'm on triple copies of Torrential Tribute and double copies of Skill Drain here. It's about all the space I had left, aside from the consistency stuff and all that. You kind of have to, play as much as you can. So with the 9 hand traps and these, you have 14 slots of just like pretty powerful interruptions. That can hopefully stave your opponent off so that you get to your turn 3, and that's when you start running away with the duel, because you almost always get to your, as long as you didn't get like your board completely decimated, you almost are always getting to your link 3 on that turn 3, which is really huge. So Torrential, just insane. I decided to play 3 of this instead of 3 Skill Drain because it's 2 of these can be really good, whereas 2 of this can just be completely redundant and do nothing for you. So this feels really good. Skill Drain. Also, the deck just plays under Skill Drain. Again, like a lot of decks just can't afford to play Torrential because it blows up their own board, but this deck can tag out all the monsters. So you can summon them on standby to trigger this and then just tag them out again, search a card, search a new Snow that you can normal summon, and then Torrential wipes their board, and then Snow gets you another 3 cards of advantage. It's actually insane. And then Skill Drain. Again, like all your monsters vanish for cost when they're doing the canvas effects, so you can just pretty much dodge this card at all times, while your opponent cannot. So very, very powerful. I think you need to focus on high impact power cards as outside of the engine to kind of make up for the lack of power in interruption that the engine provides early game. Moving into the extra deck. A lot of this is going to be flexible, but for the parts that aren't, I'm on 2 Rainbow and 2 Moonbow. This is the only card I'm missing is a second Moonbow, but yeah, you can imagine it. You're almost always relying more on Rainbow than Moonbow, but Moonbow does offer removal, which is actually kind of nice. And it also extends a weather painter back onto your field from the banish pile. So this can actually help you facilitate like summoning this and then this in the same turn, depending on how many like resources you have stocked up, which can be pretty cool. But yeah, you're usually using Rainbow. She's insane. She's an Omni Negate by banishing weather painters under her, and she can even tribute herself to negate a special summon. Absolutely insane. And then Moonbow is like kind of like a Farfa for your opponent's monsters, which is really cool. So yeah. Then next we have Gamma targets. So if you Gamma on your turn, I want to be able to make full advantage of it and just absolutely punish my opponent for letting me do that. So we have Omega, we have Draco Berserker, and we have Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. These cards are insane, obviously. So Omega like helps us essentially beat a hand trap, but then also rip another card, which can really give weather painters a good chance of success. Draco Berserker, just kind of a generic 8 that gives you an interruption and can even push into boards pretty well. And then Scarlight, depending on the board, like one of these will be better than the other. But just summoning this, wiping their board, and then attacking for like a ton of damage all at once can be huge. Mid-game or going second if you can resolve Gamma on your turn. So I felt like these are worth playing. I don't know. They're just good. I don't know. Like I just really want to make full use of Gamma, and you have so much free space in the extra, you'll see. Next up, we have like some Dogmatica Maximus targets. If your opponent's playing Maximus, they're going to give you 2 free sends. If you send Nova for Makaba and also Ntis, you're actually just going to punish them for ever doing a route like that. Just because we can, though. But otherwise, these are Prosperity Banish targets. 1 Chimera Tech Mega Fleet. Again, Prosperity Banish target. But if you do play against a Cyber Dragon player, you can punish them. I also think Fortress might be worth as well, or even more so than this. I just don't even know exactly what are the most popular Sidra builds right now. But yeah, one of those would be cool. And then you finish up with just like super poly targets. I think this is definitely one of those decks where you just have so much free extra deck space that, with Despia running around, easily just throw 3 super poly in the side. It's a high impact card that can give you such a better time playing into a board going second that just kind of cleans things up, simplifies the board state, and that's exactly where Weather Painter wants to be. A couple other options here, you know, Duplexer Chimera. This may be a little more relevant once Mathmech Circular comes out and maybe like more Cyber Stacks kind of come out of the woodwork. But yeah, feels like a pretty good lineup here. Nothing too crazy. You could obviously swap these for whatever other Super Poly targets or Ghost Reaper targets. Just, you know, why not? Just whatever you want will probably be fine. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, this deck is not... It's kind of weird to wrap your head around at first when you start playing it, especially if you're a newer player. It's a really strange mechanic that's going to be different from like the norm. But once you get used to it, the plays are not overly complicated. Your lines into your Link 3 are pretty standard, are pretty, you know, just make pretty good sense for the most part. And, you know, other than that, you just gotta do what you can. You just gotta, you know, hope you see your utility cards, like, so that way if I do just see a simple hand with like Snow, you go like +3 turn 1 off of her, and then you get 2 more pluses on your opponent's turn. And then hopefully you see Torrential, maybe your Shifters, maybe your Gammas, whatever, to you know, keep your opponent from actually just decimating you, and knowing that you're going to get a ton of resources on your next turn, and hopefully go into your win condition Link monsters to just kind of tie up the game nice and neat. But it's a really cool deck. Like I said, if we get a canvas that's an interruption, or a new main deck monster that like we can use the trap to summon it from deck quick effectively, and if we do that, maybe that card could have an interruptive effect on summon, that would be really cool. Just one of those things would be so cool. If we got both, it'd be absolutely insane for the deck. I think the deck could legit be at least high rogue, maybe even tier 2, because the deck has a lot of really strong points to it. It grinds really well. Once you get past turn 1 and 2, and like you're not already losing, the deck has a very, very good chance to win duels once you get past that point, and things are like pretty even. But you just got to get there. It's a slow deck. That's really the main point here. So yeah, that's everything I have for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on Weather Painters and the build. Let me know if there's any other you know, tech choices you think I should look at. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. But I'm out of here. Thanks for watching so much. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff from Jaboy. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.